Hey everyone, welcome to another live issue of Jab's Expensive Paper. Today we have another special guest with us. We have Derek from Uncanny Derek Comics. Derek, who are you? What
I
do you
don't know at
you don't
all.
know? Tell us all about yourself.
So I am Uncanny Derek Comics from Canada, and I talk about comics. I collect X-Men, hence the Uncanny, and I usually make a lot of videos about collecting comics, is generally speaking, about my goal to collect all of Uncanny X-Men, the entire run, issue 1 to 544, which I'm almost done. And I like to just talk about the hobby. Just the hobby is a very important thing. Just to talk with people like you guys that who collect and just learn new things and expand my comic book brain into learning more comic book brain things. Yeah, that's good.
That's awesome. That was a
That's
great intro.
that is a
So
great intro.
welcome. We're excited to talk with you. And let's see here. It doesn't look like I have. I just want to call this out really quick, Jay, because I know you wanted me on chat duty.
You
But
don't have it?
I unfortunately I cannot highlight chats
Okay.
for some
Well, I
reason.
see one
So
there, so you can
there
read
we
it.
go.
Doug, the coach.
Doug, the comic collector coach, thanks for joining.
All right. So Derek, what got you started in comics and
Ooh,
collecting?
oh, I should. So my first comic book. Okay, so I'm a child born in mid '80s, and I grew up watching X-Men animated series. And I remember my first comic book ever was I went to a 7-Eleven, and I saw a copy of X-Men number 36, which is like the '90s X-Men. And on the cover of it was Sabretooth, and it was Sync at the time. So it was actually that's the first appearance of Sync, who's one of the Generation X people. But I recognized Sabretooth, so I picked up the comic, and it was the first book where I'm like, I don't know who any of these people are. Because in there was in that particular issue was Jubilee, Banshee, Sabretooth, the first introduction of Sync, and I think the White Queen was in there, but like outside of Jubilee and Sabretooth, nobody else was in X or was in that comic, and nobody else was in the cartoon show as of yet. So I picked up this book. I'm like, this is a really cool story. I really like the final splash page where Sabretooth had escaped. But I'm like, who is everybody? And I was like, I need to fill in my knowledge here. And so I went started filling in the gaps. So I became really hard into the show, and I started collecting the odd book from here and there. And then eventually it got to the point where I started to relate a lot to the stories themselves too. Just as a kid, more or less picked on. There's a lot of stuff I can go into my backstory, which I'm not going to. But I was starting to relate with the X-Men a lot, and so I really was drawn to those particular stories. And then getting into collecting as a whole, I have expanded quite a bit. I collect things like horror comic books. I also have like Transformers back there. I do collect a variety of different X-Men. I like to say I have somewhat of a mild encyclopedic knowledge of the main X-Men storyline. But I just like comic book collecting. I love talking about the hobby, learning new things about not just superhero books, but like let's talk Golden Age history, let's talk Silver Age. The whole medium itself is just such a very exciting thing, and it has so much rich history that it becomes it's a hobby on its own. Just there's the comic book collecting, but then there's the learning about the comic book collecting, and I'm really involved with that as well. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Uh, Like you said, there's so much more to it than just the reading, the history piece. I mean, we can go on forever just
yeah,
talking about that. So, really quick, before we go into maybe a different topic here. Also, I just want to call out Jay. I do think you are backwards. So if you want to try to fix that, might be a good time to do that. But I don't know if you read manga at all, Derek, but and I know I mentioned this maybe a couple of issues ago. Have you seen this? This is the uh, X Men the manga.
is that the Japanese release
It
of
is
the stories?
it is. So I haven't started reading it yet, so I really
Sure.
don't know what to expect. But here's the table of contents here. I don't know if you can see that or
Operation Rescue Jubilee, Mutant Hunt, Bishop Magneto. I mean, it's so generic. I can't even tell you if those are like. It sounds
Okay.
like it's all new stories.
okay.
That
I
Yeah,
was
'cause-
curious. I'm like, maybe you would know with all your knowledge if
They're not
it's been-
actual reprints, right? It's not because even the art is not like the U.S.
yeah, it's
art.
Let's see. Oh yeah, that's brand new storylines entirely. Yeah, that total. That because that's yeah. There's definitely no. You know what? Can you go back just that page here where it showed Callisto holding Jean Grey? Because that's kind of the animated series stuff that took place. Because like in the, did you guys watch the X-Men animated series?
Oh yeah,
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So you know, like it was
Now I can't find that
Callisto. The
page.
Morlocks had Jean Grey.
Okay.
Like they captured her. That they made Jean Grey. They want to. No, Callisto wanted to marry Cyclops, and they had Jean Grey, and they captured her anyway. That didn't happen in the comics. That was not a thing. It was different. Rules were reversed. It was Angel who was captured instead of Cyclops, and there was no. And Kitty Pryde was the one who was stolen, but not like Kitty and Angel had a thing. But they changed it for the cartoon to reflect those characters. And I just saw a glimpse there, and it was I can't think of her name, but the granny lady, her name's eluding me right now, but she was holding what looked like to be Jean Grey from the cartoon show, and like she was in that dress that they were going out to the movies that night, and that's when the Morlock swiped her. So it looks like that may be the animated series, or at least a take on the animated series in manga form.
Okay.
Maybe
We'll find out.
let me know.
maybe.
Yeah, I'll let you
Maybe.
know. I don't know what's in store for me. So I was just curious if maybe the table of contents had some recognizable.
No, those titles were very
Titles.
unique.
Yeah.
Very very manga.
Yeah.
Mutant Hunt!
Yeah.
Exclamation point.
Yeah, maybe it's just reimagining or retelling of some of those stories and a combination of both comics and the cartoon.
Right. Well, future issue for us to talk about. So.
Yeah, definitely. Have me back. I want to know.
All right, I will. I will. Well, cool.
So, who's your favorite X-Men?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that too. Yeah.
It's Angel. It's Angel.
Okay.
Definitely 100% Warren Worthington. And I was actually on the Codex station a couple months ago, maybe. I don't remember. And they had me on because they had a feature character of Angel, and they just knew who's my favorite character. So I got to gush about him heavily in that. Because the inevitable question is, why Angel? Because seriously, why?
That was going to be the follow-up.
Right. And being very specific, saying Angel and not Archangel. Because in my opinion, I'm always a fan of an underdog. And I've always kind of put Angel in that place, because even though he's the rich guy and has all the money in the world, he's still not truly respected by the readers. But if you learn about him and read about him in the stories, he is very well respected. And it's not because of his money. It's because of his friendship. It is because of his, he has leadership qualities, because of his empathy. There's just so much about the character Angel himself that, yeah, the Archangel persona definitely makes a lot more cooler storylines. Absolutely. But the Warren Worthington character, yeah, he can just fly and punch things. That's not fun. Like, this guy can shoot optic beams. This guy can teleport. And he can climb on walls, and the other guy's claws. Like, whoa, that's wild. Like, this guy flies. Boring. But it's the mutant power that's boring, but the personality of the character really shines when you have a good writer. And ultimately, that's been a big issue of why a lot of people shun Angel, because there's not really that many writers that do him justice. I can point to you a ton of writers that do him justice, or they always fall back on the Archangel persona and like say, well, I don't really know how to write Warren, so let's just, Apocalypse is back, let's make his skin blue and deal with, like, no, there's a lot more to Warren than meets the eye. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So knowing that, Along those lines, what were your thoughts when he appeared in the movies? Both the original ones from, the 90s and now the new ones when Apocalypse did come and they did turn him into Archangel.
So a couple things you're gonna learn real quick about me. I hate all the X-Men movies, and I haven't seen the newest one. So like X-Men Apocalypse, X-Men Days of Future Past.
Okay.
I did what that was the last one I watched. The one where they had like the old, like the Fox X-Men, the early ones, and
Yep. The new ones.
that was the last one I watched. So anything after that, I did not watch because I already hated the movies and I just really couldn't handle it. And this is also true for most Marvel movies. So as I said backstage, I don't really watch a lot of TV. I don't really watch a lot of movies either, and I'm a bit of a snob, I guess, personally about it. I have a really high standard to what I would like to see in a movie, and time after time, all these Marvel movies have been letting me down. So I've only seen Angel in X3, which he was that young guy trying to lose his powers, I guess, at the
He's
beginning.
like trying to cut off his.
Yeah, that was cool. And then he decided at the very end to like, no, I'm gonna still fly and not be, not become human, and that was kind of cool because that sort of reflected, the animated series. Where he's like, I don't want to be a mutant anymore. But yeah, I'm not too impressed with how they did anybody in those movies, let alone Angel.
Yeah, that's fair. Like you said, you like the way it's written by some writers. You don't like the way it's written by others.
Yeah.
And that translates, to all mediums. Yeah, it's not just comics, but it can be even the animated series or movies, or they come up with a series on Disney Plus or whatever, that could apply as well. And that's a valid point because you have, even though they're not ours, our characters, our properties, they are part of who we are in a way. So we do
100%.
feel like they are, it's my Spidey, my Batman, that kind of thing. So I completely get where you're coming from.
Yeah, and I feel like the animated series Angel was pretty decent. Like that, they did his arc, so to speak, and how they made him Archangel. Like it wasn't done the same way as in the comics, but it still justifiably brought him to be Archangel. And they did, the Archangel thing kind of was a little heavy in the animated series, where it's like, I just want revenge against Apocalypse all the time. And sure, that was okay, but it wasn't it was the best representation we've had of Angel outside of the comic books, in my opinion. That all being said, I know I haven't watched everything, but from my also understanding, he wasn't that great in that Apocalypse movie either. I think they had Nightcrawler take him out or something, like something really simple. I remember seeing the clips of it because I was like, I'm not going to watch this movie. Let's just see all the cool Angel stuff. And I'm like, that was it, eh? Okay. Save my $10, not going to the theater.
So who is your favorite writer that does Angel then?
So there's I would say it is probably what got me heavy into X-Men. It would be Joe Casey. And Joe Casey did X-Men number 396 to 415, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 420.
Okay.
What is it? And he made Angel was actually the leader of the X-Men at that time. And so those issues came out like in the early 2000s, I think 2000, 2001. And that's when I was in high school. So I was just really getting into X-Men again, like appreciating it more as a mature person being in high school. So I was able to grasp onto the character. That's really where I first grasped onto the character. Them and Chamber also, Joe Casey wrote them very well. And I've always been kind of just glued to that era of X-Men with Angel because he still had the blue skin. He had his regular wings at that time, but they made Angel the leader, and everybody respected him very well and listened to him despite him, again, all he did was fly. But also part of the X-Men team at the time was Wolverine, Nightcrawler, it was Chamber, Iceman, and maybe not Iceman. Stacy X joined in. Yeah, I can't remember who the other person was. But, you have these heavy hitters like Wolverine and Nightcrawler, for example, and they're listening and following Warren. They're following Angel and listening to him of what to do, and that's an interesting dynamic. Just saying that, like, nobody would really think, like, why would these people listen to Angel? It's Wolverine and Nightcrawler, right? They're the heavier, like, they're the better X-Men, so to speak.
Right.
But that's how it was, and it actually made sense in the stories. So I would say Joe Casey did a great job. There was a giant size X-Men book that came out a couple of years ago. Maybe it was 2024, actually. Yeah, it was just last year, and it was Ann Nocenti did it. So she was editor of X-Men back in the 80s, and she also did Daredevil and did the Long Shot miniseries back in the 80s too. She did this giant size X-Men #1 was just a solo Angel story, and it had a few stories in there, but it was an 18 page Warren or just Angel story, and it went through kind of the history of Angel as well, but really gave a true understanding of the character of Warren Worthington / Angel, and just like kind of went through like the beats of, from the beginning of X-Men to becoming Archangel, and it addressed all of it. But kind of the sum of the story was like, you're more than just this one thing. You're more than just this rich boy. You're more than just this violent character. You're all of these things, and it kind of really is kind of a love letter, in my opinion, to Angel as and I think Nocenti did a great job at showcasing Angel as more than just the one character that most writers shoehorn him in as.
Sure. So, yeah, that's cool. I can go and educate myself now, because I'm just not familiar with that storyline or that writer. So thanks for sharing.
It's a one-shot story. You don't need to know anything else on it. Actually, you just jump right in, read it, and just it's okay.
Yeah. So I had a question, but it's kind of a twofold question. I agree with what some people say, that some heroes are only as good as their villains. Who do you think? The first part of the question is, who do you think is a good villain to Archangel, or Angel? Sorry, and who in the X-Men do you think gets him balanced and grounded? What I mean by that is that, like, Wolverine has Jean. They're not going to be together, but she's the one who calms him down, keeps him in check, and she knows how to address him and fall in line, because he's always telling Cyclops to go kick rocks, right? That's why he's my favorite X-Men, because he just goes against authority and against the grain, and is contrarian. But I'm curious to hear, since I'm not that familiar with Angel, what do you think about that, about a villain and then somebody who grounds him as part of the actual X-Men team?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think I have, like, the villain answer is going to be painfully obvious, because it's going to be Apocalypse. And it's just because there is, as I mentioned before, like, there is a natural tension between Angel and Apocalypse due to what Apocalypse has done to Angel. And there really isn't a better villain for Angel than that. You could say Cameron Hodge, I guess. And I don't know if you're familiar with him. He was the villain in the X Factor series, the original series, who was like Angel's or Warren's like college roommate, who became his business partner, who eventually ran X Factor, then turned against Angel and became part of the Phalanx and all that, blah, blah, blah. But it is Apocalypse. It has to be, because the majority of the strife that Angel Warren has to deal with is based on the Archangel persona. I mean, you could argue that Archangel itself is also the villain, but like all the good, like really good stories that Angel is involved in, and does, fortunately or unfortunately, also involve Apocalypse and the Archangel persona. So default Apocalypse. But the grounded character, I think, is a very interesting take, because you would think that Wolverine, Jean, Cyclops, and Jean, they kind of almost, you want to say that there's a female character, like the relationship wise, that is the grounded character, but I would argue it's Cyclops. So like the easy answers are saying, like, you can go over his girlfriends. Like, there's Candy Southern, which is his longtime girlfriend from the 60s all the way to her death in X Factor in the 80s, which I would have given it if Candy was still around. but she hasn't been revived since the 80s for whatever reason. And then there would be Psylocke as another obvious answer, because from the 90s on and off again, Angel and Psylocke have been a thing. But I'm going to say Cyclops. And the reason why I'm saying Cyclops is because they have this camaraderie and understanding and mutual respect of one another, because they are the original X-Men. They are the original five. And I would put Cyclops over Jean Grey, Beast, and Iceman. I mean, maybe Beast, but really it is Cyclops, because like Cyclops is the natural leader of the X-Men, really. Like, save for not even with Xavier, it is Cyclops. It always has been Cyclops. And they listen to each other, and they respect each other, and they listen to they have a genuine understanding where the other person is coming from. And I think that reading through, if you start like way back to issue 1 and work your way up naturally, you can really feel that friendship and that grasping the history between the characters, I guess. And I think of, for some reason this comes to mind, but I don't know if you're familiar with the Messiah Complex storyline, but that is just, there's a particular panel in there where there's this hospital that's razed to the ground and it's on fire, and I think it was like a children's hospital, like something really terrible. And in the Blackbird was Cyclops and Emma Frost and Angel and Wolverine and Nightcrawler and all that. And Cyclops is just like, Angel, do reconnaissance. And he just flies out and scopes out the land. And it's like, there wasn't a second thought about that. It was just like, do what you do. And Angel respects Cyclops, and Cyclops respects Angel enough to just like do their thing. And that just, for some reason, comes to mind as like a thing that kind of showcases. There's no question to it. It's like, yep, I'm doing my job, and Cyclops like, yep, you're doing your job, and they have this respect that is unquestionable. And if you go to I'm going to ramble too much about this, but you can go into X Factor and how
go for it. You're teaching us a lot of things here. So.
Well, it's specifically about Angel, so it's like it's not anything useful.
No, but it's interesting, right?
It's very interesting because
sure, I appreciate you trying to appease me. So like in X Factor, when Angel did turn into Archangel, there was the whole like trying to pull Angel back, and if you read those stories, the DO5 X-Men, well, 4 at that point, really fought to try and get Angel back. And again, Cyclops' relationship with Angel at that time specifically would be very important. So I'm gonna stop there.
No, it's good because obviously I love the X-Men to a degree. They're not my favorite, so obviously my knowledge is not as great. So hearing interesting takes, different takes, is very interesting to me as to some of the characters, because, again, I'm not deep in the trenches with these characters as I am with the Fantastic Four or Spider-Man.
Sure. Yeah.
And sometimes it's not for a lack of want. It's like if I were to read every single thing that I wanted to, I would have to leave 2,000 years and not do anything but read. And I don't think that's in the cards.
It's like that Twilight Zone episode.
I always wonder, like, when writers get like assigned a new comic book, like they're usually given a stack of books to read to like get caught up on the characters. And like, how do you have all the time to do that first? Like, I just can't imagine, like, okay, Derek, you have to write the newest issue of Uncanny X-Men. Here's the Angel stuff. Like, get caught up to do it properly. Like, I don't know if I can. I don't have the 2,000 years. Like, because it's not just X-Men. He was in Defenders, and it's like an X Factor and Uncanny X-Force and the regular X-Force, and it's like to do all that. Like, that's a lot of reading. But anyway.
It is, and it can be intimidating, because you don't want to do a disservice to the character either. So you're actually reading and paying attention, and sometimes I imagine even taking notes so that you kind of remember events that may have happened or that may have an influence into what you're going to be writing. So it can be intimidating, and that's probably why I'm also not a writer. But
yeah, it's probably less forgiving nowadays than it was back then. I remember some stuff from like the 80s, like some Spider-Man stuff where it's just like the writer's notes, like, we never said we knew what we were doing with like this continuity thing, It's just like,
no prize. Here you go.
Right.
Yeah.
We're going to try to make this make sense.
So what do you think is the best iteration of the X-Men team?
Ooh, so I I have so I stopped reading X-Men after Avengers versus X-Men, which was 2014 or 2012 or 2013, somewhere around
Somewhere
there.
around there.
So I stopped there and I just started picking it up again with this new From the Ashes stuff. So there's this current Krakoa era that I'm completely unfamiliar with and I'm probably never going to read. So I know a lot of people love that. I think just before that was the Utopia era, the Messiah Complex and the Second Coming, which was the X-Men living in San Francisco and living on Asteroid M, and all the remaining mutants were left down there. I go back and reread that history, like that chunk of books somewhat regularly, because I just love the idea of the X-Men having their backs against the wall and all the different offshoots that they were able to do with something. So it was a unique take on what they've already been doing with the X-Men living at the mansion. Now they're on an island in San Francisco, and Norman Osborn, the government's after them, and also they're an easy target for everybody else. And then you have the whole Bastion and X-Force stuff. I really enjoyed all of that. The easiest answer though is like the Claremont era of that generation. The early 200s, like just during the Mutant Massacre, that was also excellent because that was the team still growing and you getting a better idea of the characters too. But that was such a core group of people: Storm, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, Shadowcat, Colossus, Rogue. Like that screams X-Men as well. And then Psylocke was just joining onto the team too. So like that was a great time as well. But I mean, I could, for the best current iteration, in my opinion, was the Messiah Complex or Second Coming era, or that gap of time between really after the House of M to Second Coming. But like I could nitpick eras in the past too as well.
That's cool. I wish I wish I had a follow-up for that. But and that's just because my lack of knowledge, and you're like an expert in this area compared to Jay and I. So I do want to
DC. I won't know anything. Don't
okay.
worry. My knowledge is like very hyper focused. Outside of this, I'm completely useless.
That's totally cool. I do want to talk about your collection though. So I see you have some stuff framed behind you. And it looks like maybe you've got a picture with the man Stanley.
Yes.
Or is that okay? All right.
Yeah,
good.
It's my grandfather actually. I just thought it
like,
made a lot of sense.
He was a World War II veteran. Damn it. Yeah. So you got to meet Stanley, and how was that?
I've met him twice actually.
Okay.
And so this was, I met him, when was this? That was in 2010. And so we have Fan Expo Canada here, which is Canada's biggest comic book convention. And that was a VIP meet and greet with Stan Lee. And he came back 2 or 3 years later and he did the same thing again.
Okay.
This was like the best, worst thing that happened. And I'm saying that kind of cheeky. So it was the worst thing because at the time, even still now, Stan Lee was my ultimate celebrity. And so I met him. And as such, everything was just like deflated after that. Like I can now, if you were to like, hey, Derek, here's The Rock. I'm like, hey, how's it going, Dwayne Johnson? Like, what's going on? Like, I know I'm not intimidated by anybody anymore. Like, I'm not starstruck anymore. It's all gone because I did this. Like, it was just, and the reason being is because I had such a good time here. And so the meet and greet, you would just expect to, hey, Stan, how's it going? Okay, thanks, bye. No, we met up at a bar with a bunch of other people who did the VIP treatment, and he just hung around the tables and like came up to the tables like, hey, how's it going? I'm Stan Lee. I'm like, yeah, we looking up, man. So we got to like hang out and chat with him. And I have like a photo of me with like my arm around him and his arm around me, and we're both smiling. Like,
oh man,
very like, I got to see him as a human. And so that's really the deflating part of it, was that he's just an everyday Joe, which is cool, but also again deflating. But like I was still, when I think about it, I'm still on cloud 9 about it. So then I had him sign this. This is X-Men number 15 or 14, and then we had along with the VIP thing, he had a professional photo done, so I had him sign the photo, and then I had this frame made up for the whole thing.
Yeah.
The second time I met him, there's over there's a Journey into Mystery number 63, which is the first appearance of the Hulk, which is Xemnu the Titan, which is just another alien, but it was the prototype Hulk is what that issue is technically called, or what it's credited as. And I had him sign that, and the meet and greet for that was significantly lackluster compared to this one here. But I was so confident with him the next time that I was just like, "Hey, Stan, you don't remember me, but like at the professional photo shoot for that one there, like I asked him to pose for me, and like because I wasn't intimidated by his presence anymore, and I'm like, let's shoot the crap here, Stan, like let's hang out." And so I did meet Stan Lee. He was great. He was a sweetheart. I was one of the first people in line too for the signings, and I was wearing that X-Men shirt there, and he just like, "Nice shirt, young man." I'm like, "Thank you, Stan." So I have 2 graded signed books, and then I have the other 2 slab books there, being Transformers number 5 at a 9.8, and that's an X-Men number 1 there at a 2.5.
Nice. Very cool.
Yes. So that was that X-Men number 1 is like, or was my grail. I picked that up in 2015.
Okay.
The day.
Congrats on getting the grail.
Yeah.
Your Stan Lee story is a lot better than mine. I got to meet him in 2012 at San Diego Comic-Con, and it was very much like, get in, take your picture, get out, like say hi, and that was like it. So your story is incredible. That's
because you didn't pay for the VIP experience.
I guess not.
So the interesting thing though is I don't have the photo down here though. The photo that I had, like the professional photo, like Stan had cut himself on his hand. So if you look at the photo, like he's sitting on a stool and I'm standing there next to him.
Yeah.
And I'm making like a pose. But like he has blood stains on his pants, like very clear blood stains. In one of my videos, I do zoom in on it and like focus on it. It's like what? There's blood on his pants, but yeah, like. And this goes into, I don't know if you guys saw it, the Stan Lee, like the abuse and stuff that he went through.
Yeah.
So like the guy who was there for the 2010 one, who was also there for the 2012 one, who you probably saw as well, and who is kind of shown in that video, like he was the one that was like, "Nope, just keep moving, rush." And I'm sure that had something to do with it. And of course, at the time you don't think of it, but in hindsight, it's
right,
like, dude, Stan Lee's bleeding and nobody's doing anything.
Yeah, that's messed up. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like a documentary coming out soon about that, right? Or did that get?
I think it got kiboshed.
Okay.
Based on the outcry that was all about.
Yeah, I think there was a GoFundMe or Kickstarter or something, and they didn't reach the funds that they needed, so they pulled it. Now it sounds like they're still doing it, but privately funded, so I don't know that it's going to be the same. I think the story is going to be there, but I don't know what focus or what lens it's going to be told through. So,
okay. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
But yeah, unfortunately, things like that happen. Sad.
Yeah.
So what other?
So a lighter topic. I don't know.
That took a bit of a turn.
I think I brought us there.
Just think about Stan Lee too. Like another thing though that deflated after that is, he was still like my ultimate celebrity, and like in hindsight he still is. But I don't know if you guys ever saw like the documentary In Search for Steve Ditko. It was done by Jonathan Ross. It's on YouTube. It's about an hour long. It's a wonderful little documentary about trying to find Steve Ditko. And I did that, and I have like the history of Marvel Comics and whatnot. And you start reading stuff, and it's like, Stan, man, did you actually write these stories? And like you get into this whole, and in my opinion, no, but he kind of as time goes on, you kind of get this I don't want to say the truth, but you get the cracks start to show in the veneer of the persona of Stan Lee. And I say that purposefully using my hands here like that, but the grandeur of Stan Lee is not as grand as one may see, unfortunately. And I still appreciate, obviously, everything he did. He was the face of Marvel. He's the one that brought these books and of these characters to our homes and that we love so dearly. But it's also like, did you just screw over a lot of people's stay? Because it sounds like you did.
Yeah, there's that side, because at the end of the day, it's a business.
Yeah.
So they have to do what they think is best for the business, even though it could be a morally gray area.
If you
And
see the In Search for Steve Ditko, there's a specifically an interview with Stan Lee, and it's very good because Jonathan Ross is a reporter, and he asks Stan some tough questions before Stan's lawyer arrives, and I'll just tease it with that.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll have to go check that out.
I will have to put it on my queue.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the other Ditko one. Like I saw some documentary. I think it was more about just his personality and like
Well, they did go into that too, but I know there are a handful of Ditko and Marvel related stories that do delve into that. But the search for Steve Ditko is like Jonathan Ross's like love of Steve Ditko, and he interviews a ton of I think he interviews Grant Morrison, interviews Alan Moore, interviews Stan Lee, and they talk about Ditko in various capacities, and it's very interesting and very engaging as a fan of the comic book medium.
Okay,
would recommend. Haven't thought of that in years, but would recommend. I should rewatch it myself.
We'll have to check it out. So you also mentioned that you like horror. How did you go from X-Men to horror?
So I've always loved horror movies. I love the horror genre. I am this says Tomb Mold, just for the record. It's a band. This is a death metal band from Toronto. But I love heavy metal, and I love just the dark stuff, so the horror thing would come naturally in comic books, in my opinion. So obviously I love comic books, but then you start to get the bug of these pre-code horror stuff. And my first pre-code horror book was this guy here. Don't fall. Good. The Vault of Horror. Let me see if I can do this right. That goes there. That goes here. Get rid of that glare. There we go. The Vault of Horror, number 32. And this is a Johnny Craig cover. And if you just look at it, there you go. There's a man with a mallet and a bloodied man laying in the streets in the rain. And I have such a affliction for this. Is Johnny Craig as the artist, but I love his artist as a separate thing. But I just love these really graphic covers, or these pseudo graphic covers. Because again, this isn't like the most violent cover you're ever going to see, but this is a pseudo graphic cover. And I love this. In my opinion, the good horror movies are the kills you don't see, like the horror that happens off scene. And that's a lot of what these covers are. And this is my first horror book, and it just kind of grew from there. So I just naturally flew into that and learning the history of these horror books. And as somebody who enjoys the hobby, I still, X-Men still my number one, but pre-code horror kind of took off a little bit. And it's not going to ever replace X-Men because pre-code horror gets pretty damn expensive. But just the idea of these taboo books, they're not taboo anymore, but they were taboo at the time, is very intriguing to collect, because they have such very unique history to it, very unique culture. And I really just appreciate all these things these pre-code horror books have to offer. And the stories themselves, like if you're ever a fan of Twilight Zone or Tales from the Crypt, obviously that was a comic book, but like those types of stories, that's what all these books are riddled with. So horror became a natural part of the comic book collecting as well.
So I'm also a metal fan. So did horror turn you into metal, or did metal and some of the covers from some bands like Cannibal Corpse or things like that turn you into horror?
I would say I was into horror before the metal, but like they both kind of appeared at the same time. Because like the first metal band, that I always considered them a gateway metal band. So I have like off scene here. I have almost 1,000 CDs, most of them heavy metal. So we're like, I can talk about heavy metal for decades. But I always felt Tool was a gateway metal band for me. Tool and then Opeth, and then from there everything went to like Carcass. I don't know, Creator. Like I just went hard into all that stuff, and so but the horror aspect was always separate from that. I never really like linked the two together. So like my favorite movies in high school when I got into horror were and still are like Dawn of the Dead, the original one, Day of the Dead, the original one, Alien, and so like those, and like Alien isn't really like a graphic horror movie. It was a sci-fi horror, and then Dawn and Day, they're graphic movies, but I enjoyed the actual social commentary of them and the appreciation that there's more to horror than just like, oh, it's a spooky movie. Like, no, there's more commentary. It's like the X-Men. Mm-hmm. And so that was a separate appreciation to the metal that was there, but they make a very obvious and natural crossover. But they weren't natural with how I came about them, actually. Never been asked that. That's a very good question. Never reflected on that before.
Yeah, I'll just say Opeth and Carcass are names that I don't hear every day, but that I listen to a lot. So
yeah,
good taste.
Carcass's Heartwork is top 3 favorite album of all time. Yeah,
nice. We just lost Bax, but
yep,
we'll reel him back in.
Favorite horror movie?
So it's a toss up, honestly, between 3. It is Alien, Dawn of the Dead, and the original Black Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah. So it is between those 3 there. Hello, wife. He has entered the chat.
Hello, Derek's wife.
Hello.
Yeah, it is between those 3, and she hasn't watched any of them. And she oh no, that's not true. She watched Alien. We got her through Alien, and then some of Dawn of the Dead, but she found it boring, which is understandable because it's a 70s zombie movie, which is slow paced, and one scene where like they bite into the neck and it's just clearly all foam.
Yeah, it's just like the practical effects. Just
they
live a little bit to this.
Yeah.
You just rewatched Dawn of the Dead, didn't you, Max? Not too long ago.
No, I watched Night of the Living Dead. I got
Night
that on. That was the Criterion 4K release.
Nice 4K black and white.
Yeah, it's sweet. No,
I love that movie too. The last 10 minutes of that movie are just like intense, like
super intense, man. Like they just the pacing of that movie. We could spend the rest of the time talking about that, but I won't because then we'll lose Jay. So, but
horror movies, Jay.
I'm into more of the, like you mentioned, the off-screen type of horror. Where it's more of a psychological thriller. The monsters and slashing and don't do it for me because I'm like, that's ridiculous. It's not real. I always tell this story. Like one time we were at the amusement park of sorts, more like a fair, and I was at this haunted house, and of course everything's dark. Light comes on, and there's like bars from like a cell, and this monster comes over and starts screaming in the bands, and he has a chain, and I just remember I grabbed a chain and smacked the guy to the bars. So that's, because I'm like, this is not real. This is just some dude trying to scare me. Like, I can't get that mindset off my brain.
Sure.
But with the psychological stuff where, you don't see things happening and they're messing more with your mind, that's more of my jam when it comes to horror.
Sure. Yeah, I can appreciate that.
Have you seen the 70s invasion of the body snatchers?
I was about to just like go into but I don't want to get too loud. But it's been a hot minute. Like it's like a long time ago. So yes, but like, you're gonna quiz me on it. I'm gonna fail.
No, I just we should try that one, Jay. I think you might like that. It's a good psychological.
Yeah.
Or even like what's the other John Carpenter one? Like They Live is technically isn't like a. I mean that's is that considered horror at that point? I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose you could.
Yeah.
Well, Halloween's coming. We can do a marathon.
Yeah.
There you go.
cool. So X-Men 1 was your grail. Do you have any others?
Yeah. They don't stop. Once you get
That's
the
the problem with
grail,
this
you
hobby,
knock it out of
right?
the park. It's like, all right, well,
Well, what's next?
yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's tons. Like realistically, like Giant Size X-Men #1, I still don't have, so that's a grail. There's Vault of Horror number 35. That's the axe swinging Christmas cover, which you guys may have seen.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
Oh,
grail.
yeah. Yep.
Crime Suspense story number 22, the headless holding up the head, the guy with the axe. That's a grail. These are all like in decent quality, like $3,000 to $5,000 books. Like by decent quality, I'm like saying a 3.0 CGC. Like
Yeah.
it's just these are all very expensive books. So all of those, and then still lots more. Like that, I can just start rattling off lots of pre-code horror. X-Men wise, like in terms of my collection, I still need to get out of the big books still at Giant Size X-Men, X-Men 2, X-Men 3, X-Men 4, and X-Men 50. Those are the last big grails. I have issues 91 to 544 complete. So it's just kind of those back issues I need to work on. And 2, 3, 4, and 50 are the most expensive ones out of the bunch. So those are the next big X-Men grails to get, so to speak.
Cool.
So you don't have a 50 first Polaris cover?
That's correct. I do not have that.
I'm kind of surprised. I think that's one of the big X-Men books that most X-Men collectors get right away.
So, I mean, yes, but in my opinion, still, there's a lot of books that are still unreasonably priced. And I have always felt that X-Men number 50 is ridiculously overpriced for what it is, because it's not the first appearance of Polaris.
No,
It's
that's
the first
49.
cover, sure. But again, nobody gives a damn about Polaris. And it is the first cover of the new logo, which, again, what the shit. So, like, it really has not a lot going for it, but because collectors themselves, like the broader collector community is like, no, this is Polaris. This is arguably their first appearance, and it's like, no, it's not. But I can't. It's like X-Men or Hulk 180 is actually the first Wolverine, but
Yeah, that I'm in total agreement with that.
So I feel it's kind of the same boat as that.
Yeah, and that's a fair point about 50. I think a lot of it too is because it's Steranko and it's a classic Steranko cover, so it gets a lot more love than what, for a storyline, it represents as a key. So
Sure.
I understand that.
But he did 49, and that is also like that is her first appearance, and
Right.
in my opinion, that's the better cover. But what do I know?
So Derek, one of the things that I'd like to talk about is you have a YouTube channel. Of course, for those that don't know it, go follow him, go watch, subscribe. Puts out great content. And it's very well informed. You just don't go and talk. Like you actually prepare. You just did one where we talk about grading and grading companies. So can you give us a brief summary of what that episode was on your channel and what you talked about?
Yeah, and thank you for the compliment. Yeah, I try to put a lot of effort into many of my videos with a script, and in this particular one, it was about grading and objective versus subjective grading, and the whole gist of it was that as collectors, we want to make our subjective grades objective, meaning we want to give our comic books a numerical value by not just financially, but we want to say this book here that I have, this is a 4.0 because it's going to be worth whatever. And so we rely on grading companies to provide those numbers for us, but we can't always trust the grading companies because they obviously everybody's human and we can everybody can miss stuff, but also there's an inherent value in grading companies as well, not just because of a graded 4.0 versus a raw 4.0. The graded one's going to go for more money. Like that's an objectable fact. But grading companies also help us become better collectors. And so in the video, I kind of just go through the train of thought and the reasoning to why I say these things with a little bit of evidence along the way too. But yeah, it just a lot of the videos I talk about on my channel kind of I guess I kind of go against the grain with slabbing. Like these are the only the books you see here. These are the only 4 slab books that I have. Do I ever plan on never buying a slab again? No. I did actually make a video a little while ago. I had bought an X-Men book, X-Men 64 for Sunfire. And then a few months later, I did a video on the channel of me breaking down the slab, how to crack open a CGC slab, because I don't care too much about graded books. But every collector is different, and you can collect however you want. But it was more of a, be careful about what you're doing, because even though this book may say it's a 9.8, is it actually a 9.8?
Mm-hmm.
Like what tells you it's a 9.8 outside of the label at the top? Are you collecting the book, or are you collecting the label? What, as a collector, are you doing? And so a lot of my videos actually kind of go through that. A lot of my videos I talk about collecting and grading go through that kind of train of thought, or at least have that in mind.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point because, something you touch on is how you can argue that you have a slab and it's a 9.8, so you immediately go to places like Go Collect or, Cover Price. I use Cover Price.
Me too.
And you can say, oh, 9.8's last sold, and you can look at the aggregate data, look at some of the eBay sold. So it gives you an idea of what really is the fair market value and what the book is worth, at least in the last 3 months that Cover Price, considers recent sales.
Yeah.
How do you feel that that affects you being more of a raw collector? Because you also touch on how Cover Price exactly, it's more of a range for the raws and not the actual grade. Like, they'll have a fine and it's 5 to 6, and poor is like 0.5 to, I think, 2 or something. I don't remember exactly. But as a collector, how do you think that affects your collecting, or how do you go about making sure that if you're getting a book that's supposed to be a 6, you don't pay 7 prices
Sure.
when some of
Yeah.
those categories are bunched together?
Yeah. And it is difficult. And so, like, the part of it is, you have to be really familiar with how to grade comic books. So and I'm not perfect myself. And if you remember, we were on a stream, on Brandon's stream, Mon Comics, last month. I had a book that I showed there, and I'm actually going to I have a video of it coming out at the end of the month. But there was a book particularly that I did catch. The staples were replaced on it that I had paid for. And I've sent it back successfully with a refund, just so you know.
Okay.
But there's a lot of training that's involved in terms of being able to go through a raw book and to be able to spot inconsistencies or problems. And I'm not going to get them all, but that's kind of the value of having a graded company, is that, they'll at least guarantee to some degree. But it's difficult to really, it's difficult to just say, like, this is the way you're supposed to do it, and this is the way you're supposed to be going through a book. This is the important thing that you're supposed to be looking for. And then specifically to your question about Cover Price, how do I deal with it? The prices are, knowing that, Cover Price says that this 2.0 book, is worth $200. And right now I'm looking at one on a wall here that's saying it's $250, and they say it's a 2.0. Well, I have to look at the book myself, go through it and say, is it a 2.0? Is it worth it? And make that judgment call. The other thing is that it depends on how you collect ultimately, because I going through that video, I say buy the book, not the grade. But, like, realistically, what does that even mean? I can go down the rabbit hole with that. But in a nutshell, it's, what do you feel comfortable purchasing, and why do you care about the value of it? And so I look at some of the books that I have, and, I have that X-Men #1, and I paid, in comparison to now, this has been an investment. Now, I don't buy comic books to invest. I'm not looking at them to be, oh, I'm going to sell these down the road. I'm collecting them because I like to collect the books. I like to go through the books. I like to have the tangible product in my hand to be able to flip through and do that kind of stuff with. So as a collector of raws, the pricing doesn't necessarily scare me off about the books as it is so much. I just want to make sure I'm not getting gigantically ripped off. Will I pay a little bit more for 2 than if they cover price says it's that $200 book is $250, and I end up paying $275 for it? Am I going to be upset over that? Not necessarily. But I have to trust myself, trust my eyes, trust my judgment, and be comfortable with what I'm doing, because ultimately nobody's telling me to buy these comic books. I'm the one in total control of my destiny here. So I have to make those decisions and make sure I'm confident and that I will be happy with my decision making down the road. So long-winded answer to your question.
No, and it's a fair point, because and you hit it right in the nail on the head. It's how comfortable you are with, spending money in a piece of paper. Really,
Yeah.
that's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
So, I think that goes also for graded books, because even though you have the grade, if it's a 9.0 of a 252 newsstand, ASM 252 newsstand, am I comfortable spending, $1,000, $1,200, whatever it is nowadays? Not really.
No.
But if I see it raw, and raw is, half the price, and then am I comfortable? Maybe. Will I care? Probably not. If that's a book that I want, then that's a book that I'm going to get, and the grade might dictate more of the price that I'm going to pay, or the price might dictate, sorry, the other way around. The price might dictate more of what I'd be comfortable paying with on a piece of paper. So.
Yeah, and I feel that post COVID, prices are still dropping, and I'd be foolish to say that I spent or I'd be lying to say if I spent too much money on comic books over the past couple of years. Like, had I just waited, I would have gotten better deals. Like, for sure that would have been the case. Like, arguably the past couple of years have been arguably the worst time to be collecting comic books if you're doing it to try and make a buck later, because the prices are still somewhat, they aren't so much anymore, but they are still somewhat high because of the COVID bubble. So do I just stop my hobby and stop what I'm enjoying just because I want to be able to say I got the best deal for this book? No. So it's you have to be comfortable with what you're doing here. Could I throw giant size X-Men #1 on my CGC 9.8 on my credit card today? Sure. Am I going to do that? No. You got to be reasonable with what you're doing in your hobbies and and I'm not going to, in 5 years time, if the price still drops, I'm still not going to do that, because it's still, I don't have an inherent demand to have that 9.8 book, to pay that kind of pricing, not just because, I may not trust the grading to it, but because it's like, why? It's nice to say you have 9.8s for sure, but but that's me. That's me. And I don't begrudge or judge anybody else who does that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're
teach their own.
By no means are we telling people how to collect or what to collect.
Yeah.
It's your hard-earned money. You are in your own right to spend it however you see fit. But you're right, because I would love to have an FF1 in a 5.0. Am I ready to throw $18,000 at it? No. Will I?
That cheap right now?
No. Right. So.
No, yeah, and I think Derek, you made a good call in the distinction. Is like we're in the collecting game. There are people that are out there. They're in the selling game. They're trying to make a profit or invest in this and make things happen. So, yeah, it's important to know where you are on the spectrum. So,
if you're into the collecting, that's great. If you are in it for spec, good luck, because who knows what's popular today may not be in 10 years or 20 or even tomorrow. So,
and that's really the kicker, is that we put this weird, I don't even know if it's like us. I don't know who puts these, like the FOMO books that exist. X-Men 130, the first appearance of Dazzler. When Deadpool and Wolverine was coming out, everyone was like, "Oh, Taylor Swift's going to be in the movie. This is," and that book and it's like,
why? The hype cycles around the Marvel movies are crazy.
Yeah, and it's,
I remember the Deadpool versus Wolverine movie. There's just all these other issues just skyrocketed because there was a scene in the movie for 1 second of
Yeah, or like there was the fear. Was it the fear itself? Like in the trailer, there was that one Doctor Doom cover or something that like it
Oh
initially
yeah,
Yeah.
that took
Secret.
off.
I think it's Secret Wars 8.
That was
was
it.
in the
Yeah,
PS.
it was like
Yeah,
that book took off and nobody really did anything with it. But some people may have got a lot of money from some suckers. I guess I don't
yeah, yeah. I
know.
remember like when they first announced Doctor Doom. The cover with Iron Man and the Doom golden suit just
Yep.
skyrocketed.
Hmm.
Now it's like back to what it was
Yeah.
before it even spec. So
Or even the X-Men 251, the Wolverine on the Crucified X.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like that is $1 book, guys. Like I
Yeah.
don't know why that. Like there are literally like over 1 million copies of that book that exist, or at least close to, that exist out there, and it's like people are buying them for like $50-$60, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you crazy? Like that is $1 bin book,
But it was in the movie.
right? It was
yeah,
cool, but like, come on.
Yep. No, I hear you. Well, we're at an hour. That's what we try to keep these. Just
yeah.
not
Um,
not
Go
going
for
too
it.
long. I know
Sorry
it's
for
been a
talking
long
so
day.
much.
What's that?
Sorry for talking so much.
No, no, no. You
no.
did. You
This
did
is
phenomenal.
this is great. I didn't even know it was an hour. I don't have my
Yeah.
glasses on, so I can't see.
Yeah.
Um, before we depart, anything you got going on, Derek, that you want to plug in on your channel
Sure.
or your IG or?
Yeah. So Uncanny Derek Comics on Instagram. I will be a guest host the 10th this Saturday. Yes, or Friday. I will be on Mon Comics' channel, Brandon at Mon Comics. I'm a guest filler for that. That should be this Friday, if I'm not mistaken. And then at the end of the month, I have a video coming out about that very particular book that you know about, Jay.
Mhm.
The return of it and how that all went down, and specifically, it was a big book that I received, and I had found out the staples were replaced, so I had to return it, and it's about that whole situation. So that there's a tease for the video that is coming out at the end of the month.
Yeah, I'm looking
Awesome.
forward to it because it's definitely a learning experience, we'll say.
Yes, definitely.
Well, cool. Well, thanks again, Derek, for being with us. Everyone watching, make sure to go to Derek's channel and subscribe. Check out his content. And yeah, until next time, keep flipping those pages.
We'll see you on the next issue.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.